I've been having the same strange dream over and over. In it, I'm tangled up with a man I don't recognize, endless, breathless nights that feel too vivid to be imaginary. I never see his name. I never learn who he is. And then I wake up, embarrassed and irritated with myself, like my own brain is playing games. But real life has been worse. A few days ago, I reported a classmate for cheating on a required exit exam, cheating that could have let her graduate on a lie. Her name is Chloe Sterling. She's the kind of student everyone tiptoes around, not because she's brilliant, but because of who she belongs to. She didn't deny it. She didn't even pretend to be sorry. She called her uncle. Everyone knew what that meant. When I walked into the department office, the air already felt heavy, like the verdict had been decided before I opened my mouth. A couple of classmates sat there with their eyes lowered. The advisor wouldn't meet mine. Even a professor who'd once told me, "You did the right thing," suddenly had selective memory. Chloe sat in the middle of it like a queen on a borrowed throne, smug and perfectly composed. And then he walked in. Julian Sterling. The second I saw him, my stomach dropped so hard it felt like I missed a step on a staircase. Tall. Impossibly put together. Striking features, an immaculate suit, and the most unsettling detail of all. A tiny red mark at the corner of his lips. Exactly where I had bitten him in my dream last night. For a moment, I genuinely thought I was hallucinating. I pinched my thigh hard, the kind of pinch that should have snapped anyone back to reality. It hurt. So he was real. Chloe leaned in, triumphant. "Willow," she said, voice sugary, "my uncle is here. It's not too late to apologize." I barely heard her. I was staring at Julian like my mind couldn't process him and the mark on his mouth at the same time. Coincidence? It had to be. Chloe's patience snapped. "Willow, are you listening to me?" And then she raised her voice, loud enough for everyone in the office to hear. "Apologize. And you need to make a public statement that reporting me for hiring a test taker was slander. That you deliberately tried to ruin my name." I forced myself to look away from Julian and meet Chloe's eyes. "Chloe," I said evenly, "I refuse." Her smile hardened into something sharp. "Are you out of your mind? Do you know who my uncle is? He's a shareholder at Apex Corporation." With a snap of his fingers, "Your new offer is gone. You'll be blacklisted. You'll be finished." The room stayed silent, like everyone was waiting for me to fold. I swallowed, then said, "Then let me be finished." I looked up again, straight at Julian. "Word by word," I said, "either way, I will never back down." When I walked out, the hallway felt colder than it should have. People avoided my gaze like guilt was contagious. Because they had just lied for her. All of them. Everyone knew Chloe had someone else take that exam, students, staff, even a few instructors. But they chose to look away. And when I reported her, they didn't just stay silent. They actively covered for her. Because Chloe was the school's famous Nepo baby. The Sterlings were already wealthy, but ever since Julian took over their family empire, their power had exploded. Commercial districts. Amusement parks. Whole chunks of the city stamped with their name. And Julian didn't just run the family company, he had stakes in other giants too. Offending Chloe meant offending him. And even though he wasn't even 30 yet, he was the kind of figure people feared crossing. Except me, the one person willing to be the thorn in everyone's side. If my report went through, Chloe might not graduate. So she panicked. She dragged her uncle back from an overseas trip to crush me. My roommate trailed behind me afterward, pleading like she was trying to save me from stepping off a cliff. "Willow. Why bother? We're almost done. Just endure it and it'll pass." "You endure it if you want," I snapped. "I won't." She sighed, helpless. Her uncle is powerful. There's nothing we can do. "That's not what you said when she copied my thesis," I shot back. My roommate choked on her words, unable to argue. Chloe had always been arrogant in the dorm, looking down on everyone like she was doing us a favor by sharing oxygen. But she bullied me the hardest. At first I couldn't understand why. Then I found out it started over something stupid. There had been a senior she was obsessed with. One day, I accidentally wore the same jacket he did. People teased us, saying it looked like couple outfits. He laughed and said, "Guess I'm honored." That was it. That tiny moment. Chloe never forgot it. She held on to it like a reason, like permission. And no matter how many guys she liked afterward, her hatred for me never changed. Back in the dorm, I kept organizing evidence, screenshots, timestamps, anything I could salvage. My roommates drifted into gossip like it was a coping mechanism. Did you guys see Julian Sterling today? I did. He's even younger than I thought. I heard he's only like 7 years older than Chloe. So handsome. Oh my god. Is he married? Chloe says he is someone. Even if he didn't, we wouldn't stand a chance. People like that are too far away from us. Their voices faded as my mind slid back to those dreams. In them, Julian shed that immaculate suit, and I shed every defense I had. There were no conversations, just the heat of being pulled too close, the dizzy feeling of losing control, like my brain had turned him into a storm I couldn't outrun. But the strangest part was this. Before that day, I didn't know Julian Sterling. So how could I have been dreaming about him? The only explanation I could accept was that I must have seen his face somewhere, an article, a billboard, a photo in passing. Maybe I forgot consciously, but my subconscious latched on and dragged him into my sleep. That had to be it. And the cut on his lip? A coincidence. It had to be. Still, the thought of dreaming about him again made my skin crawl with embarrassment. So I refused to sleep. I stayed awake until dawn, staring at the ceiling like sheer stubbornness could keep my mind under control. At noon, my roommate shook me hard. "Willow, wake up. Someone's looking for you." I squinted. "Who?" Her grin was immediate. "Julian Sterling." I sat straight up. "What?" "He's downstairs." "Hurry." I washed up so fast my hands were shaking. When I got down to the lobby, Julian was standing near the corner, back straight, looking like he belonged in a boardroom instead of a dorm building. Even doing nothing, he pulled attention like gravity. His eyes flicked over my face and he said, calmly, "Insomnia." I blinked. "What?" "You have dark circles," he said, like it was obvious. "Oh." I crossed my arms. "What do you want?" "I heard from Chloe you plan to post her story online," he said. "If the school keeps covering for her," I replied, "I will." Julian paused for a beat, then said, "My company is dealing with a PR situation right now. Can you make an exception?" I stared at him, stunned by the audacity. "No." "Name your conditions." "No," I repeated, sharper this time. "Bo wants to people like you, and you'll spend your whole life bent." "People like us?" he asked, eyebrow lifting. "Yes," I said, heat rising in my chest. "Privileged people like you. You package yourselves as glamorous, but you build your lives by squeezing everyone else dry." He didn't lash out. He didn't even look offended. He just watched me for a moment, like he was actually trying to understand. Then he asked quietly, "Is that how you see me?" "Of course," I said. "You and Chloe are family. If that's what your niece is like, what does that say about you?" I turned to leave. Behind me, Julian called, "Willow." I stopped, irritated. "What else?" He hesitated, then said, almost softly, "Go to bed early tonight. Get some sleep." I almost laughed. Sleeping early was impossible. Chloe hadn't been exaggerating. If Julian wanted to, he could make my job offer disappear. So saving money mattered. If I had to move and start over, I needed every cent. The convenience store near campus was open 24 hours. I worked the night shift until 6 a.m. By the time I clocked out, I felt like I could barely keep my eyes open. My eyelids were so heavy they felt glued together. The street outside was empty and cold. And then I saw it. A black Maybach parked on the side of the road. Julian leaned against it, watching me like he'd been waiting. For a second my brain refused to accept it. The exhaustion, the dreams, the impossible coincidence of it all, my mind shoved it into the only category that made sense. This is a dream. It has to be. I walked straight toward him, heart pounding, and said, "Don't you only show up in dreams at night?" "It's 6 a.m. "Why are you still here?" Julian didn't answer. That felt familiar too, because in the dream, no matter what we said, it was like words couldn't cross the space between us. I stared at him, that perfect, restrained expression, and anger bubbled up out of nowhere. "You look fine in reality," I muttered, "so why are you so unbearable?" On impulse, I reached up and rubbed his face, like I was testing whether he was solid. He didn't pull away. Instead, he patted the leather seat inside the car, inviting me in like it was the most natural thing in the world. My body moved before my mind caught up. I got into the car and, without thinking, straddled him, like it was muscle memory, like I'd done it 100 times. Julian adjusted automatically, shifting his posture so I wouldn't slip, so I'd be steady. It was so natural, so practiced, my blood went cold. I swallowed hard and started talking, because if this was a dream, then nothing mattered and I could finally spit out everything I'd been swallowing in real life. Your niece bullied me, I whispered fiercely. The advisor covered for her. The school covered for her. And you? You showed up and tried to crush me too, like I'm nothing. His eyes flickered, just slightly. She cut up a dress I saved for, I went on, voice shaking with old humiliation. All because I accidentally bought something similar to hers. She called me shameless, like I was trying to copy her. How would I even know her brands? I saved up for months for that dress. Julian's gaze darkened, like something in him shifted. And now you want those companies to blacklist me? I said, bitterness spilling. You have no idea what she's done to me. The words tumbled faster, years of anger and frustration pouring out because I thought none of it was real. I thought he couldn't hear me. I thought this was just my exhausted mind making another cruel joke. Overwhelmed, I leaned in and kissed him hard, more rage than tenderness, then whispered, I don't want to dream of you anymore. This is the last time. Julian's hand shot up, gripping my waist with sudden strength. No, he said. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. He spoke. And I heard him. My head swam. Wait. How? Julian stared at me, voice low and unmistakably real. Willow, he said, you're not asleep. This isn't a dream. Before I could process that, there was a sharp knock on the window. I turned. Chloe stood outside, hair messy, eyes half-lidded like she'd been dragged out of bed. She yawned and mumbled, Uncle. Why did you call me out so early? My brain short-circuited. Not a dream. Not a dream. I scrambled off Julian so fast I nearly fell, curling low beside him, trying to make myself small enough to vanish. Chloe knocked again, impatient. Uncle, are you in there? Why are you hiding? The back window rolled down, but only halfway. Julian leaned forward, blocking most of the opening with his shoulders so Chloe couldn't see inside. Talk, Chloe said, rubbing her eyes. You called me at 5 in the morning. For what? I couldn't sleep, Julian said calmly. I wanted to ask you something. Chloe blinked, shocked. You couldn't sleep? Don't tell me you stayed out here all night. She glanced around like she expected a club, a hotel, anything. All there was a convenience store and empty street. If this is about the exam, Chloe said quickly, slipping into her practice tone, I already told you. I didn't cheat. Willow's lying. She's trying to ruin me. Julian's gaze stayed steady. Yesterday afternoon I went to the school to pull the security footage. It was deleted. Chloe's eyes widened just a fraction. Deleted? Julian's voice didn't rise, but the air inside the car turned heavy anyway. Footage gets overwritten after a while. But tell me something. Why were all the other recordings intact? Except the exact window of time you entered the testing center? Chloe blinked hard, then forced a laugh. Coincidence, right? Julian didn't move. Answer me. Chloe's eyes darted, searching for an escape. Have you eaten breakfast? I can go grab you something. Chloe. The way he said her name made my pulse jump. Chloe went quiet. Then, like she was desperate to change the subject, her gaze dropped to Julian's collar. She squinted. Wait. What is that? My stomach dropped. A small earring, mine, hooked on the edge of his suit collar, catching faint light. Oh God. Chloe's face lit up with ugly excitement. Uncle. Why do you have a woman's earring? Are you hiding someone in there? Did you just come from someone's place? She leaned closer, trying to look inside the car. Julian's hand closed around the earring before she could get a better look. Step back. Chloe grinned wider. Should I tell Grandma and Grandpa? This is huge. She tried to crane her neck again. Then her smile froze. No. Wait. Her eyes narrowed. I've seen that earring before. Julian's fist tightened, keeping it hidden. Chloe snapped back into her fake laugh, too quick, too bright. Never mind. Lots of people buy the same stuff. My uncle wouldn't have tasted that bad. Julian's expression sharpened. Did your parents never teach you not to look down on your classmates? Chloe scoffed. I'm just telling the truth. Willow's poor. She acts like she has principles, but what good are principles when you don't have money? She should have just been my follower and stayed in her lane. Enough, Julian said, voice cutting like glass. Chloe's eyes widened, shocked at the sudden edge. Why are you mad? Willow isn't even here. Who am I apologizing to? Julian leaned forward slightly. Apologize? Chloe stared at him like she didn't recognize him. You're serious? Apologize, he repeated, quieter. And then go wait by the corner. I'm handling something. Chloe opened her mouth, then thought better of it. She stormed off a few steps away, sulking like a child sent to timeout. The window rolled up. Silence. I finally lifted my head, heart hammering. I'm sorry, I said, voice raw. I didn't know she'd be that. Shameless. Julian's jaw tightened. Is she always like that to you? I swallowed. Today was her version of holding back. Something flickered in his eyes, regret, maybe. Or anger, sharper than regret. I believed what her parents told me, he said quietly. That she got along with everyone. That she never bullied anyone. That she would never cheat. He exhaled. I was wrong. I stared at him, then forced myself to say the thing I'd been circling since the moment he spoke in the car. So you dream too, don't you? Julian's eyes lifted to mine. He didn't pretend. He didn't deny. He nodded once. Every night. My throat tightened. So it's both of us. Only when we're both asleep, he said. That's why you never see me during the day. Because he didn't sleep during the day. Because his life ran on a different rhythm, boardrooms, flights, decisions that moved money like weather. And I was just a student trying to graduate without getting crushed. For a second, part of me wanted to believe that if we just named it, if we dragged it into daylight, it would evaporate. That the dreams would stop. I tried to sound light. Maybe now that we talked about it, it'll end. Julian watched me. You want it to end? I don't want to dream about you, I said honestly. I don't. Like your world. His expression went still. I nudged him, forcing my voice into something practical. Your niece is going to lose patience. You should get out. Julian didn't move. Willow. What? He held my gaze. Do you want to get out with me? The question was absurd. Dangerous. Like he was asking me to step onto a moving train. Of course not, I said immediately. His eyes narrowed, like he was weighing something. Then, softer, you don't want anyone to know. Don't twist it, I snapped, heat rising in my face. There's nothing to know. He tilted his head. Dreams count. I let out a bitter laugh. If you want to call it something, fine. But it's not a relationship. It's a glitch. A shared illusion. His gaze held steady. And in those illusions? My cheeks burned. We're not talking about that. He didn't press, but the silence pressed anyway. Finally, he said, almost to himself, all right. He opened the door and stepped out. Chloe perked up instantly, like a dog hearing a treat bag. Julian said something to her in a low voice. Chloe's face shifted, shock, then panic, then resentment. He led her away. I waited until they were far enough, then slipped out of the car, keeping my head down. Except the moment my foot hit the pavement, a shadow fell across me. I looked up. Chloe. She doubled back, eyes wide, looking at me like I was a ghost. It's you, she breathed, horror mixing with fury. You were in his car. My stomach dropped, but I didn't flinch. Chloe's face crumpled into something ugly. I was curious, she said, voice shaking. I just wanted to see what he was hiding. And it's you. Footsteps approached behind her. Julian. He took one look at Chloe's face and seemed to understand immediately. Chloe spun toward him, frantic. Uncle, listen, she's manipulating you. She's doing something to you. Otherwise, why would you help her? We're family. She's nobody. Julian's gaze went cold. Look at her, Chloe kept going, words spilling faster, louder. She's broke. She dresses like she doesn't even know what good taste is. People like her always want to climb. She's trying to. The sound of the slap was sharp in the morning air. The street froze. Even I froze. Julian had hit Chloe. Not in secret. Not in private. Right there, where anyone could have seen. His face didn't change, but the anger in his eyes was worse than shouting. Enough, he said, voice terrifyingly calm. The Sterling family didn't raise you to be this. Chloe's cheek reddened instantly. She stared at him like she'd never been told no in her life. Then her knees buckled. She dropped to the ground in front of me, sobbing. Willow, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, okay? Please. Please talk to my uncle. He'll listen to you. Don't let him do this to me. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I said, no. And I walked away. Behind me, Julian called, Willow. I didn't stop. I didn't want to get dragged into their family disaster any deeper. I didn't want to be the reason she was punished or spared. But over the next few days, I couldn't avoid the fallout. Chloe vanished from campus like someone erased her. 3 days later, her name reappeared in an official notice that detonated across the school. She was disciplined for hiring a test taker. For deleting security footage. For tampering with an investigation. The punishment was severe, so severe everyone whispered that it must have come from the top. And then another rumor spread, heavier than the first. Julian Sterling was the one who forced the school's hand. The administration had tried to bury it. They didn't want bad press. But Julian personally brought in tech to recover the deleted data. And the recovered footage showed exactly what I said it would. A lookalike. Someone who walked like Chloe, dressed like Chloe, moved like Chloe, close enough from a distance to fool a lazy proctor. Close enough for Chloe to feel safe. Not safe enough. After the announcement, the same advisors who treated me like a nuisance suddenly smiled so hard their faces looked painful. They called me into the office. Willow, we misunderstood you, the department head said brightly. You did a great service correcting academic integrity. I glanced around and saw Julian standing there, silent as a shadow. I understood instantly. They weren't apologizing to me. They were performing for him. Julian nudged Chloe, who stood stiffly near the wall, eyes swollen, pride cracked but not gone. Apologize. Chloe's jaw worked like she was chewing glass. Willow. Sorry. Then she snapped, loud enough to pull attention from the hallway. But I'm reporting Willow too. For being corrupt. For seducing my uncle. I saw her get out of his car. The room went dead quiet. Julian's gaze sharpened. What did you just say? Chloe lifted her chin, desperate. I'm not blaming you, uncle. She's the one, she used tricks. Otherwise, why would you? Julian's voice dropped. Stop. Chloe didn't. So Julian cut her off the way he'd cut her off before, without yelling, without messy words. He looked at her and said, each syllable like a blade, you are disgracing yourself. Chloe's breath hitched. And you're disgracing the family, he added, colder. With that mouth. Chloe crumpled again. I didn't stay to watch. The next thing I knew, the school escalated her punishment again. The second chance they'd hinted at disappeared. Chloe was expelled. And then Julian Sterling chasing me became the new campus headline. At graduation, classmates swarmed me like I'd turned into a lottery ticket. Willow, if you marry him, you never have to work again. Is it true you can pick any job at any Sterling-owned company? You're so lucky. I held my diploma in my hand and felt nothing like lucky. I grew up with nothing. I fought for everything. I didn't crawl my way to this point just to become someone's accessory. After the ceremony, I went to find Julian. He'd prepared a graduation gift, a necklace so expensive I could practically feel the weight of the price tag without touching it. I stared at it, then set it back in its box. Julian watched me, unreadable. You don't like it? It's not that. Then tell me what it is. I didn't. Instead, I did the one thing I decided I needed to do before I left. Because the dreams hadn't stopped. And I'd heard rumors, half superstition, half desperate hope, that if you reenacted a dream in reality, you could break the loop. So I took a breath, stepped closer, and said quietly, do you want to do this in real life? Julian's gaze darkened, not with shock, but with something steady. Something like he'd been waiting. We didn't finish last time, I added, voice tight, meaning the car, meaning the moment Chloe knocked. Julian's mouth curved faintly. So you're finally letting your dream come true? I didn't look at him. Just once. Reality was different. Not in the ways people brag about, but in the way it made everything sharper, every hesitation, every heartbeat, every second where you could still choose to stop. When I finally let myself cross that line with him, it wasn't a fantasy anymore. It wasn't a glitch. It was a decision. After, I lay against him in the dark, staring at the window, listening to the quiet of a world that hadn't ended just because I'd done something reckless. Julian's voice came near my ear, softer than I'd ever heard it. I like you, he said. Can I call you Willa? Just between us. I didn't answer. He kept going anyway, like he couldn't help it. Can we see each other tomorrow? The way he said it, careful, almost hopeful, didn't match the man campus feared. But my brain kept circling one thought like a warning bell. This has to end. The dreams have to end. And I had to leave. While Julian slept, my phone lit up with a message. Hey, Willow. What time do you arrive tomorrow? I can pick you up from the station. Lucas Bennett. Lucas was the senior Chloe had once been obsessed with, the one who'd laughed about the matching jacket, the one who'd accidentally ignited her hatred for me. I'd only reconnected with him recently, when he'd come to campus recruiting. He'd recognized me even when I didn't recognize him. You're the top student in your department, he'd said, smiling like the sun. I've heard of you. You work hard enough to make me feel lazy. Then he'd asked if I was job hunting. He offered me a position at his company in a different city. Good pay. Real growth. A chance to start somewhere Chloe's shadow couldn't reach. I took it. Not because I wanted Lucas. Because I wanted my life. Before dawn, I sent Julian a message. Thank you for doing the right thing, even when it meant hurting your own family. I respect that. But we aren't from the same world, and I'm leaving. I got on the train north. A year passed. I adapted to the new city. The new job. The loneliness that sometimes felt like freedom and sometimes felt like punishment. And the dreams? They stopped. I didn't dream of Julian Sterling again. Lucas and I weren't in the same department, but we became lunch buddies, the easiest kind of companionship, two people from the same school, trying not to drown in adult life. We grew closer. Close enough that coworkers started guessing. Close enough that sometimes, for a moment, I wondered if there was something there that could become real. Then late June came, and a major client visit hit the company like a storm. Our boss, Mr. Grant, a man who treated yelling like a leadership style, made it everyone's problem. I was responsible for coordinating the airport pickup. That day, there was an accident on the highway. The car arrived 5 minutes late. 5 minutes. But in corporate time, 5 minutes is a sin. I jumped out, bowed automatically, and started apologizing. I'm sorry, the traffic. And then I lifted my eyes. Julian. For a second my brain emptied so completely my mouth moved before thought. It's you. Behind me, Mr. Grant hissed, Willow. Watch your tone. He scrambled forward, smiling so hard it looked painful. Mr. Sterling, I'm so sorry. Our staff is young, inexperienced, please don't take it personally. Julian didn't look at him. Julian looked at me. He said nothing on the drive back, but the silence was worse than a lecture. Mr. Grant tried to make small talk and failed. Then, like he couldn't help himself, he took his frustration out on me with snide comments and sharp jabs. Until Julian finally spoke. This is the good job Lucas Bennett introduced you to? The car went so quiet it felt like the air stopped moving. I stared straight ahead, jaw tight. It's fine. I'm learning a lot. Your talent is wasted chauffeuring. I have other responsibilities, I said. Today was just extra. Mr. Grant tried to laugh. You two know each other? Julian ignored him. When we arrived, rain had started to fall. I reached automatically for an umbrella, except Julian had already opened a black one and, without thinking, angled it over my head. Mr. Grant stared like he'd seen a glitch in the universe. I pushed the umbrella away and walked inside without looking back. Later, near lunch, Mr. Grant appeared at my desk, nervous in a way I'd never seen. Ah, Mr. Sterling said. He said you deleted him on social media. He asked me to tell you he wants to talk. I stared. The meeting's over? Mr. Grant nodded so fast it looked like his neck might snap. I went. Julian was alone in the office they'd reserved for him. The door shut behind me, and the world shrank to just us. He watched me like he'd been storing words for a year. Talk, I said, guarded. What do you want? To talk about you disappearing, he said. I didn't disappear. I messaged you. I know. His voice softened. I reread it for a year. That landed in my chest like something heavy. He stepped closer, careful not to crowd me. You said we aren't from the same world. We're not. Julian's gaze didn't waver. Where aren't we? I frowned. What? We breathe the same air, he said quietly. We look at the same sky. We stand in the same room. So tell me, where is this other world? You know what I meant. No, he said, almost stubborn. I don't. I forced myself to say it cleanly. The gap is too big. The power. The money. The way people treat you. The way people treat me. If I stay near you, everything I do will get labeled as because Julian Sterling protected her. I don't want to live under your name. Julian listened. And when I finished, he nodded like he'd been waiting for the honest answer. So that's it, he murmured. You don't want the credit for your life to belong to me. Yes. He gave a small, almost rueful smile. I guessed as much. Then why ask? Because it's been a year, he said. And you've proven yourself anyway. I blinked. You waited a year. On purpose? Julian's gaze dipped. I found your address and your company the week you left. My stomach twisted. I could have shown up any time, he continued. But I didn't. I didn't want to interfere with your choice. I wanted you to experience work and love on your own terms. His voice dropped. Not just a year. What do you mean, not just? The door opened. Willow, lunch, Lucas stepped in, froze, then immediately began backpedaling. I'm sorry. I didn't know Mr. Sterling was in here. Julian's expression stayed calm, but his eyes sharpened slightly. Are you two together? No, Lucas answered too fast. Julian nodded once. Good. I stared at him. What if we were? Julian's mouth curved, smooth and unshaken. Then I'd still compete fairly. And if I chose him? Julian met my eyes and said, with a smile that held something dangerous beneath it, then I'd steal you back. After that day, Julian stayed in town for work. And Lucas, who used to eat lunch with me nearly every day, suddenly became busy. Too busy. Always busy. At first I told myself it meant nothing. Then the office whispers started. A couple of male coworkers smirked at me near the break room. Congrats, Willow, one said. Moved fast, huh? What are you talking about? You snagged a billionaire, the other laughed. No wonder you got promoted last quarter. My blood went cold. That's not why. Oh, sure, he said, amused. Nobody admits it. I was about to snap back when a woman from another team stood up, someone I wasn't even close to, someone I'd argued with before, and hurled a bottle of water at the guy's shoulder. Shut up, she snapped. You two say one stupid thing and erase all the work she's done. Her performance was the best in the department. She earned that promotion. The men grumbled, embarrassed. One of them muttered, We're just repeating what Lucas said. Not our fault. My heart dropped. What did you say? I asked, sharp. He flinched. Lucas Bennett. He said. I didn't let him finish. I found Lucas in the break room and pulled him aside. Did you tell people I got promoted because of Julian Sterling? I demanded. Lucas looked shocked, then immediately offended. No. Why would I say that? Because people are repeating it. He frowned, thinking, then said smoothly, People love gossip. If they saw you go into that office with Mr. Sterling, they'll invent the rest. Don't let it get to you. I stared at him, searching for the boy I trusted. His smile stayed in place. Too perfect. Then he changed the subject, too quick. Hey, isn't there a charity program you're overseeing? He asked. Can you put me on it? I'm really interested. I hesitated. We did need help. So I said yes. The project was supposed to be simple: fund underprivileged girls, bring them into the city for school, cover meals and housing, set aside education grants. Halfway through, I noticed discrepancies. Some of the funds were being routed into a personal account. Lucas's account. When I confronted him, he didn't even look guilty. Yeah, he said, like I'd asked him what he wanted for lunch. I redirected some. It's exhausting work. The bonus is tiny. I figured I'd keep a little. My body went cold. That money isn't for us. Lucas leaned back, calm. Don't be naive. This happens everywhere. Do you think every dollar donors give actually reaches the kids? Yes, I said, voice shaking. It's supposed to. He shrugged. If you don't take a cut, you're the idiot. I stared at him, heart pounding. Those girls need that money to eat. And I need money to survive here, Lucas snapped, the mask slipping. I need to buy a house. Build a life. You think that happens on goodwill and hard work alone? Hard work is the only thing that ever saved me, I shot back. Lucas's eyes narrowed. That's because you've been protected. I actually laughed, sharp and hollow. Protected? You don't know anything about me. But his words hit anyway, because long ago, I'd been one of those girls waiting on funds that never arrived. I'd lived the reality of someone skimming kindness and leaving kids with nothing. I left him standing there and drove to the partner school, numb. The girls were in the yard, clothes worn thin, faces bright anyway, laughing like joy was a rebellion. I stood outside the fence, unable to go in. And then I saw him. Julian, dark suit, sleeves rolled just enough to look human, holding bags like he belonged there. The girls swarmed him, shouting his name like it was a holiday. Uncle Jules. What did you bring? Milk, he said, kneeling, smiling. Cookies. And clean clothes. A girl held the milk carton like it was fragile treasure. I've never had milk, she whispered. At home, only my brother gets milk. Julian's eyes softened. Then today, you get milk. The sunset painted his face gold. For a second, he looked younger. Cleaner. Like the power and fear people attached to his name didn't exist. Then he looked up and saw me. Willow, he said simply. Why are you here? I blinked like I'd been caught stealing. That's my question. Those other kids are company sponsors. Julian stood. Your company's name is on the paperwork, he said. But the money isn't from your company. My breath caught. What? It's from me, he said. I stared. Then you know they've been skimming, Grant and the others. Julian's expression didn't change. I know. And you didn't stop it? My voice rose, raw. You let it happen? Julian exhaled, like he'd already fought this argument in his head. I'm stopping it, he said. I'm collecting proof. I'm waiting for the right moment to close the net. Behind him, his assistant stepped forward, unable to stay silent. Miss Willow. Mr. Sterling personally handles a lot of his charity work for this exact reason. He avoids middlemen. I stared at Julian, stunned. Why route this one through our company, then? Because Grant is a repeat offender, Julian said. And because he stole from someone I couldn't forget. My chest tightened. Julian's gaze held mine. Years ago, I got lost. A rural family took me in for a while. They were poor, but they were kind. When I was found, my family made a donation to help them. His mouth tightened. Grant was the handler. My hands went numb. You're saying? He stole that money too. Julian gave a short, bitter nod. I'm saying they never received it. My heartbeat turned chaotic. That family. Their last name wasn't Sterling. It was. Julian's eyes sharpened, like he'd been waiting for me to connect it. Wilson, I whispered. The name from my childhood, Americanized on paper, but I knew the sound of it. It was the Wilson family. Julian's mouth twitched, like he hated what came next. I stared at him, voice breaking. It was you. Memories slammed into me, mud roads, leaking roofs, my mother's tired hands, and a boy a few years older than me with no memory of his name, brought home like a stray. They called him Golden. Because my mom said he looked like luck, like something precious you didn't expect to find. My throat tightened so hard it hurt. Golden. It's you. Julian's expression went painfully still. Don't, he said, almost pleading. Not that nickname. I laughed through the shock, the tears that threatened without permission. You had a scar on your ear, I blurted. I did that. I bit you when you stole my bread. Julian's hand lifted unconsciously to his earlobe. His eyes softened with something that looked like relief and grief tangled together. You remember, he said quietly. How could I not? I whispered. You protected me. No one bullied me when you were there. Julian's voice dropped. I looked for you afterward. My chest ached. We waited, I admitted. We waited for help that never came. And then my dad got sick. And then life taught me the hard way that promises don't fix roofs. Julian's gaze darkened with guilt. When I got back, I demanded my family make sure that donation reached them, he said. They told me it didn't matter. That once money leaves your hands, you shouldn't ask where it lands. His jaw tightened. I couldn't accept that. He looked at the girls playing in the yard, then back at me. So I decided I needed power, he said softly. Real power. The kind that makes people listen when you say, no. Not this time. For a long moment, we just stood there, the past pressing against the present like two worlds finally colliding. Then I inhaled, fierce. Grant and Lucas. Julian's eyes narrowed. You're sure about Lucas? I thought of Lucas's calm smile while he stole from girls who had nothing. I'm sure, I said. And I don't feel sorry. Julian's mouth curved, almost proud. Good. That's how Julian Sterling and I became allies. We worked quietly, methodically, collecting records, tracing transfers, catching careless messages, documenting every hand that took a cut. Grant wasn't alone. The rot went higher. Wider. When the story finally broke, it hit like an explosion. The company scrambled. People panicked. Names fell like dominoes. Julian stayed hidden behind the scenes. The public story became simpler. A young employee, me, exposed corruption and forced accountability. Some people mocked me. Being a troublemaker guarantees no one will hire you. I didn't argue. I just opened my inbox and showed the row of new offers. If a company had skeletons, they didn't want me. So I went to the companies that didn't. The woman who defended me in the office landed somewhere better too. She deserved it. And Julian? Julian and I kept going. We rebuilt the charity program the right way. We fixed systems instead of throwing money into leaks. We funded teachers, repairs, tutoring, things that lasted. He provided resources. I executed. We moved like a team that didn't waste time on ego. Somewhere along the way, my resentment softened into understanding. Understanding turned into trust. Trust turned into something I didn't want to name out loud, because naming it made it real. And real meant risk. One day, months later, I ran into Chloe again, no entourage, no smug smile, just a brutal kind of quiet. She stood in front of me like she wanted to speak and couldn't figure out how. Finally, she mumbled, Willow. It sounded like it hurt her mouth. I nodded once and kept walking. I didn't need revenge. My life had grown bigger than her. A year after the scandal, I came home from a long business trip. The moment I stepped into the entryway, arms wrapped around me, strong and impatient. Julian lifted me like he couldn't help himself, like he'd been counting minutes. I laughed, breathless. Miss me? His answer was immediate, soft against my neck. Yeah. I smirked. Still calling you Golden? Julian groaned. Please don't. It ruins the mood? I teased. He pulled back, eyes narrowed, but there was warmth there now. Real warmth, not the chill of boardrooms. I leaned in and kissed his cheek. Fine. Then, because it felt like the truest thing I'd ever chosen, I said, I missed you too. Husband. Julian froze. What did you call me? He asked, like he needed to hear it again to believe it. I smiled, the kind of smile that didn't come from luck or rescue, but from finally standing in the life I built with my own hands. Husband, I repeated. And the way Julian looked at me in that moment, like the dreams had finally turned into something better than dreams, made me realize the worlds I'd been so afraid of weren't separate after all. Not when you fight to meet in the middle. Not when you choose each other awake.